Okay, let's talk about something that so many of us go through, that internal tug of war that happens right when someone asks you for something. It can be so incredibly frustrating.
You feel that pressure, right? You can feel the expectation hanging in the air. You know exactly what you want to say, what you actually have the energy for, but then the words just come out.
And there it is. You've agreed to something that you know is going to drain you, something you just don't have the time for, or maybe something that just plain goes against what you really want.
And it doesn't just stop with saying yes, does it? Maybe you find yourself writing a whole novel explaining why you can't do something instead of just saying no. Or you just bend over backwards to keep everyone happy, even if it makes you miserable. And the worst part? That feeling afterward. That little bit of resentment that starts to build up, not just at them, but at yourself.
It's a totally fair question. I mean, if this whole pattern leaves us feeling so worn out and frustrated, why on earth do we keep doing it?
Well, the answer goes way deeper than just being too nice. This pattern has a name. It's called people-pleasing. And here's the most important thing I want you to hear today. It is not a character flaw. It's actually a survival strategy that your brain learned a long, long time ago to keep you safe.
And that right there is the big reframe we're going to talk about. We're going to stop looking at this as some kind of personal failure, and instead we're going to start understanding it for what it really is, a smart, learned strategy for survival.
So to really get this, we can turn to psychology. There's this thing called attachment theory, and it basically tells us that the blueprint for how we connect with people as adults, well, it gets drawn up when we're very young. Our first relationships taught us exactly what we needed to do to feel safe and cared for.
And this is exactly how that training happens. Maybe as a kid, you learned that you only got positive attention when you were agreeable, when you didn't cause any trouble, or maybe any kind of conflict in your house just felt really scary, emotionally or even physically. So over time, your nervous system did some very clever math and figured out being easygoing equals safety. Rocking the boat feels like a legitimate threat.
This slide just lays it out so perfectly. The old story we tell ourselves is filled with so much shame. What's wrong with me? But the truth is all about self-compassion. It's about recognizing that this strategy actually worked. It did its job. It kept you safe when you needed it most.
I really want you to let that sink in for a minute. This has nothing to do with you being weak. This is about powerful, deep-seated conditioning that your brain put in place to protect you.
Okay, so that's the backstory. That's where it all started. But how does this old survival tactic play out in our lives today? Well, as we'll see, our modern world is basically a perfect incubator for keeping these patterns going.
I mean, think about it. At work, who gets praised? The person who's always available, always saying yes. And our social lives, they run on platforms that literally have a counter for how much people approve of us. Likes, shares, follows. In that kind of world, saying no doesn't just feel a little awkward. It can feel like you're risking your job or your social circle. It triggers that same old survival instinct. All right, so we understand the why behind all this. Now let's get practical. How do we actually start to change this? It really all starts with one small, manageable step.
But before we get to the how, we have to tackle the number one fear head on. The fear that if we set a boundary, we're going to push people away. Let me be really clear about this. That is a myth. The absolute truth is that healthy boundaries protect your connections. They stop that resentment from building up and poisoning things from the inside out. They make your relationships real.
So here it is, your first very practical exercise. And we're not talking about some big dramatic confrontation. It's just about creating a pause. The next time somebody asks you for something, just resist that knee-jerk reaction to say yes. Instead, have a simple, neutral phrase ready to go. Something like, let me check my calendar and get back to you. Or even just, let me think about it. That little bit of space you create, it's everything. It breaks that autopilot response and puts the control back in your hands.
Okay, let's bring it all home with the final and honestly, the most important takeaway of all. I want you to think of this as your official permission slip. We just have to be real about this. When you start to change the dynamic, some people who are used to you not having any boundaries, well, they might not love it. And that has to be okay. Their reaction is about them, not you. It's their stuff to deal with.
So really, it all just boils down to this one simple question. For years, maybe your entire life, that survival strategy has been all about prioritizing everyone else's comfort over your own. The real work here is about finally deciding that your comfort deserves a seat at the table too.
And that's the heart of it right there.
You have permission. You are allowed to disappoint someone if it means you don't have to abandon yourself. And that isn't selfish, it's the absolute foundation of living a healthy, authentic life.